everyone. Today we will be talking about Photoshop 3D. It's a new concept to me, but I'm just going to show you some things that I've learned from class and with messing with the program. It can get pretty interesting. Some of the topics are a little confusing, but through this tutorial hopefully you'll find ways to work around that and master the program. This is a 3D object that I got from my teacher, Gabe Grant, and we were supposed to use it as a model to help everyone see the new areas of the 3D in Photoshop. As you can see, I'm using a rotate tool to move the object around. I can move it on an axis, up and down, over the top of it. I can put it completely upside down, whatever I want to do to differentiate the orientation of this item. All these buttons up here are used to move the camera around, not necessarily move the object around. There's different ways to move the object around, and I will show you that in a little bit. So here we're using the roll the camera. You can just basically use the entire move the entire orientation of the camera. Another thing I want to point out is up here, right here, the infinite light. That is where the light is coming from. So you can see the light is over here and the shadow is being cast on the bottom right section of the pyramid. Another thing that I want to point out is these two tools. Basically it just slides the camera around in certain directions. The only problem with that is, at least that I've come to realize, is you can't rotate on a certain axis. You just basically can move in one area up or down, so it kind of just puts the object out of the frame. This is basically just a zoom tool. You can still zoom in and out like the last tool, but this one you can drag down to zoom in on the object, or drag the item up to zoom out of the object. This tool is basically just a zoom tool. It's the same thing as the last one, but it's just used for zooming in and zooming out. So I like to use this one because I can at least kind of put the object where I want on the screen, and it will help me know where the object is at all times and the shadow back here. Next, I want to show you a little about how to move the object in the 3D mode. First off, what you want to do is you want to select the object. Here you can see that I only selected, I selected the whole thing, but you can select different parts of the object. I can select the back, the front, the right, the left, the bottom. Over here on this on the 3D menu, you can select the current view. You can do everything with that, but I like to just select the pyramid. The first thing that I want to show you guys is the scale. You can do the scale on the x-axis, the y-axis, and the z-axis. I will just kind of go through these different things and show you what each one does according to the axis that it's on. So here's the x-axis. You can see it expands to a certain level. You can shrink it as small as you want, basically just paper thin, but I'll just go back to around 5 inches what I had it. Same thing with the y-axis. It just expands the object, and you can make it smaller or bigger within that 3D area. And the z-axis basically just pulls it towards you or away from you, whichever way you are thinking about it. And you can use the camera angles to just get different views of everything and just help your process out by just getting different views and knowing where you're moving each axis. The next thing I want to show you is the rotate tool that is used for each axis. So first I'm going to do the x-axis. So you can see that it's rotating around a pivot in the middle, which is that cube. And you can see that the cube actually shows the shadows, and I thought that was pretty interesting. I didn't even know that until I started messing with it, and I learned that about an hour or two ago, so it was pretty cool to find out. So you see how that moves along the x-axis. Now I'm going to rotate it on the y-axis, so it's rotating on this axis. So imagine there's a line going from the top to the bottom, so it is basically just rotating around and around on that one little peg. Then next I will show you, let me rotate it a little bit, and I will show you the x-axis or the z-axis rotating, and you can see how you can just make everything on this pyramid rotate any which way you want, and that's a really big thing to know how to do, especially when you want to edit or recreate the size of the object. Okay, let me try to get this back to where it was. Next I want to show you guys the move on the y, x, and z axis. So here you can see the little cone-shaped object on the top of the little peg, and basically if you drag that along the axis, it goes in any which way you want it to go. So that was the x-axis. Here is the y, it goes up and down, and here is the x. You can see it going back and forth. Another thing that I want to point out is whichever way these are rotated, it orientates the axis to go a certain way. So the axes don't change, but the object, the way it is orientated, will change the direction of the axis. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear. The last thing that I really want to point out is the fact that when you want to print these objects, you have to have them on the ground level. So as you can see, there's a shadow underneath my object right here, and this is the ground plane, and you can see that it's not on the ground, and you can see that as I rotate it left and right. So what you want to do is you want to move it to the ground, so it sticks it flat on the ground, so it enables it to be printed. You can see that some of it isn't on the ground, but you can just adjust the coordinates to make it go exactly on the ground. You can see that the degrees is a little bit off, but that is about it. Those are the things that I've learned from working with Photoshop 3D this week. I hope you guys learned something too. If you have any comments or questions, let me know, and I will see you guys next week. Thank you.